Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live from warm, sunny Colorado. Always warm, always sunny, sometimes Colorado. Today is November 17th, 2024. The year is almost over. Thanksgiving is on the way. We've accomplished a lot of stuff, and we're starting to see a little bit of a rebound, starting to see the passion come back, the fire come back. People are really starting to get excited. 2025 is going to be a very, very good year. The community is coming together. Constitutional Convention is imminent. We're only a few weeks away to go down to Buenos Aires and have lots of delegates talk to each other, get a lot of things done. We're all pushing hard. We're all trying to close out the year very strong. I think that we will get to a great constitution. It'll be a nice compromise of many different things. And then the on-chain government will be able to vote on it. Chang Plus One is currently on testnet. People are playing around with it, having fun with it. And the very first hard fork to be done by the Interim Constitutional Committee, and turning on all the DREPs, and thus we have a full on-chain government. The budget process is underway. Coalition is forming. We like to call it CDEC, Cardano Development and Ecosystem Cooperative or Coalition. Come up with good terminology for it. But it contains all the people you know and love, and a lot of really cool things to do. Marketing is going to be really strong next year. We'll be definitely in force if we can get the budget passed at all the major conferences, bring the community along, and showcase all the wonderful things happening Cardano. Innovation division at IO has kind of opened itself up. We've been doing a lot of internal innovation, and that continues. But now we're opening up a bit and adding all kinds of things from the community in. So Gummy Worm from Sunday Swap, Midgard from Anastasia, ZK Fold. We're kind of negotiating, talking with the teams, figuring out how to get them into the innovation process to accelerate what they already have so that they can bring what they have to market a heck of a lot faster. We're fighting the good fight across the board and making sure Cardano gets fair and adequate representation. I have been making some strategic investments in various different things, put some money into Maestro. I think those guys are amazing, and I'm hiring a dedicated person to do nothing but make Cardano the dominant platform for Bitcoin DeFi. Got a little bit of competition there, but I think we're best in class. And so I want to get that experience figured out end to end so that people in the Bitcoin ecosystem, they just click a button and they're ready to go. They're ready to use Bitcoin DeFi powered by Cardano. So that'll bring a lot of volume and demand here. And by the way, all those advancements to Hydra are starting to really come to fruition. Hydra Doom has massively evolved the protocol. Gummy Worm Midgard would massively evolve the protocol. We're starting to really get practical with the protocol. And I think people are going to be blown away by the potential performance numbers that a Hydra-enabled application can have. Then you got rollups also there. We're the best rollup system in the ecosystem because of extended UTXO. So I'm real excited about that. Ouroboros Laos prototyping is already heavily underway. We have a team of about 6 or 7 people on it. We'll keep growing and scaling that team up so that we can speed up Ouroboros Laos prototyping. And there's already a fertile conversation that's being held about the new Cardano node, in addition to the old Cardano node, and making that better too. So we're all moving along. The emulator, as I mentioned before, the Nintendo emulator that we want to do on Cardano using Hydra, that'll be the next project after Hydra Doom. So we'll kind of move that team over. We'll scale them up, give them the resources they need. And that dApp store is finally unblocked for Lace. And so that's coming. Lace team is under really good management with Brandon. It took a long, long time and a very serpentine road for us to get that project where it needed to be. And boy, it was hard. But now we have a good team, and we have really good progress coming along. As you guys may have noticed, there's now NAMI mode for Lace. And what this allows people to do is basically transfer their NAMI wallet over to Lace. And if they like the NAMI UX, they can leave it exactly the same, looks exactly the same, only it has amazing code, amazing backend, and it has all that reliability and quality that we've built in. Or they can just click a button and suddenly they're in the full Lace experience and they get access to everything. And that's how you get things done. So we'll continue to make strategic acquisitions. We'll continue to build up that ecosystem. But 2025 is really going to be the year of Lace. It's finally unstuck, and a lot of cool stuff is coming, like multi-sig. We already have the paper wallet generator. Generation 2 will include hardware support for that, so YubiKeys and other things can be used inside the development flow. As I mentioned before, the dApp store, and then multi-asset, multi-chain. Bring them all together. So that's a hungry team. They're fired up. Got our passion back. We're really starting to shoot on all cylinders. On the regulation side, been talking with a lot of different senators and definitely engaging with the right people. And we'll basically see over the coming 60 to 90 days how things come together. So I might go to DC next week. It just depends on the schedule and how things come together and the schedule of other people. But I already have some embedded people that have been in pretty deep conversations. And what we're trying to sort out is what can be done through administrative changes and rulemaking, what can be done through executive order, and what can be done through lawmaking. Lawmaking is the hardest but most permanent. Administrative changes are the easiest but very ephemeral. And executive orders are live and die by the administration. So the hope is to figure out a consolidated package of the three to make America the best place in the world for cryptocurrency companies. So we can get them all come here to the United States and we can create a multi-trillion-dollar cryptocurrency industry onshore, bring them all back home. So that's an all the above policy then. You have to look at taxes, you have to look at custody standards, you have to protect consumers, you have to make sure that there's a bill of rights for crypto, including support and defending non-custodial wallets and making sure that we can use crypto the way we want to use crypto, but also getting asset classification taken care of so we can get the SEC out of this insanity that we've seen in the last few years and the regulation through enforcement to come to an end. And there's going to be a lot of great partners that I think are kindred spirits. As I've mentioned, I had a wonderful phone call with Brad from the Ripple community. And he's a good CEO. He's a good guy, too. I've known him for years, and it feels good to be back on the same team. It feels good to be talking to each other. There's a lot going on right now, but he wants to get done. I also reached out to Lehman Baird from Hedera, and we're right now in the process of getting a call set up. So we've been going back and forth, and secretaries are working with each other. And I'm just kind of working my way through a lot of the different cryptocurrency ecosystems. It's time we come together, speak with one voice, and we get policy where it needs to be so crypto can get to the next level. There are trillions of dollars of real world assets and trillions of dollars of potential business that could come into crypto. We just have to get over the regulatory hurdle that we're currently in as an industry. And the good news is everybody's unified on this. The House, the Senate, and the presidency are all unified in wanting to get crypto policy passed that cleans up this mess. We are no longer talking about politics. Elections are over. People are now in power, whether you like them or not. They got to lead and they got to get stuff done. So you'll notice that I'm not tweeting about politics anymore, and I'm not talking about it anymore. We're real focused, and we got that lupine energy now. We're fired up. We're ready to go. And the focus is going to result in the next 9 months, we got to get a law passed, and we got to figure out how to make that happen. It's a very complicated thing. It's a very technical thing. It takes a lot of listening, and also it takes a lot of learning. So a baseline has to be established for the industry as a whole. So all the American crypto businesses, they need to get a survey, and they need to actually write down who they are, what they do, who their customers are, how they make their money, and most importantly, what's been going on with the U.S. government and them. And then all that stuff feeds up, and it gets to a single point. And then that can be used to get the policy changes, the executive orders, and also the laws to get the industry where it needs to go. And if we score it right, meaning we look at international regulation, whether it be the JFSA or the Singapore Monetary Authority or ADGM in Abu Dhabi or VARA in Dubai, or we look at Switzerland and FINMA, we can go through all the different regulators of concern, doesn't matter. We can say, okay, well, this is what they do, and this is what we're going to do post-law and post-changes. And guess what? We're going to be number one. That's the goal. So that will bring trillions of dollars into the industry, get us to the next level. Innovation is still churning along. There's a little bit of competition now for midnight. We're still going to win, but it's nice to actually have good competitors. The Espresso team is incredible. They're some of the best people in the industry. And the same for the Aleo team. They're very solid, come from A16Z, and they got a lot of bright people on that side of the aisle. Mina's looking good too. People are really starting to upgrade to get to these next generation programmables, private smart contracts. So we're really starting to speed up on midnight, and we're learning a lot from what they brought to market, and it helps us kind of orient ourselves. But I think that midnight is going to be a Leviathan in 2025 based upon how it's being launched, how the ecosystem's coming together, the reception that we've all gotten, and the combination of core technologies, and the fact that Cardano can launch midnight, meaning you're decentralized from day one, and you don't have to go and build like a whole layer one network effect or have governance keys or these types of things. You're just decentralized from day one. That's how it should be. And VCs didn't come in and screw up the distribution and all these other things. And that's the kind of stuff that makes a huge difference. Midnight is a gift to the entire industry, and it's what is going to get us where we need to go as an industry. We need private smart contracts, and we need identity so that we can get all of those real world assets and security tokens and other such things in. And what's beautiful is the very same thing that does Bitcoin DeFi on Cardano by adding Midnight to the list. So you have a tri-hybrid application, 3 blockchains, Cardano, Midnight, Bitcoin. Bitcoin, for the first time ever, is going to have a privacy layer for private smart contracts. How about that? So can't wait to collaborate with the Bitcoin community on that. Got a lot of work to do. Bitcoin Education Project is coming back, and we're definitely going to talk about what makes Bitcoin special and unique and what makes Bitcoin the dominant cryptocurrency. There's a lot of philosophy there. That's good philosophy. It's good to be reading again, good to be thinking again in that sphere. But then also, what are things you can do to extend that mindset, but still stay in the Bitcoin ecosystem and keep the Bitcoin guarantees? Bitcoin OS, we're also going to try to put it through the innovation group. Some backfilling has to be done on the security model. I really want to make sure a solid academic paper gets written about the innovations that were done there. And we've done this once before. Satoshi created Bitcoin, and then our scientists wrote GCAL 15, which is the foundational model proving Bitcoin is secure. So it went from an intuition and heuristic viewpoint to a formalized, rigorous viewpoint, which is pretty cool. And it just shows you how brilliant of a person Satoshi was to just intuitively come up with something that years later was proven actually not only to be right, but actually a dominant model in many different respects. So hopefully we can do the same for BOSS. And if there are anything to clean up, it'll get cleaned up. And then we're off to the races. But anyway, enough about me talking. There's a lot more to say. Can't mention things about NDAs and still about ongoing conversations. Of course, I want to talk to you guys. It's an AMA. That's what makes AMAs fun. Okay. Charles, what was in your SpaceX bag? So I went out to Hawthorne and saw the facility. They're building a rocket every 2 days. These guys are unbelievable. I mean, you see mechanics constructing engines. You see big rocket bodies. You see 3D printers going off. You see these advanced machines using ultrasound to scan carbon fiber. It is one of the most incredible manufacturing facilities I've ever seen in my life. And the staff was just fired up. The bag that they gave me had a t-shirt, had a pen, and had a notebook. It's a very nice swag bag. All right. Do. These things are going so fast. Try to freeze it. Let's see here. Charles, what was it really like to live in the body of a wolf? It's incredibly disorienting. First off, your entire proprioception, your whole notion of your body mechanics change because it's like you're like on your hands and legs, right? And you're kind of crawling, you're walking, you have 4 legs instead of 2 legs. And you have this tremendous sense of smell, really nice visual clarity. And that was the first thing that hit me was the sense of smell. I could smell miles away, with this type of thing. And then you're running and it's a bit disorienting, stumbling, but really exciting. Sorry, guys. I'm going to go ahead and leave that there. All right. There are so many comments that are coming through. What is Midnight? Midnight is a 4th generation cryptocurrency. It's being built to augment all of the cryptocurrencies. It's a meta chain instead of just a blockchain. So it works with Ethereum, and it's going to work with Solana. It's going to work with Cardano. and we're negotiating with other ecosystems to see how we can bring it in. In fact, it'd be really cool to announce a few things in the coming months about that. And the goal is to add private smart contracts, because then you have private state to public state. So currently, smart contracts in crypto only live in the public side, and all the private stuff is done somewhere else. And by having private smart contracts, you can add an identity, and then you can create a selective disclosure regime. So you can imagine like a company is a disclosure engine. So some people get to see the HR files. Most people don't. Some people get to see payroll. Most people don't. Some people know the secret projects a company's working on. Most people don't. So there's a private side, there's a public side. So if you're running a DAO on chain, you need that capability. Or if you have a security token, for example, there's a private disclosure regime that relates to the broker dealer and the mechanics of the security, including the voting of the security. But then there's a public part of it, like who owns it, where is it trading, its public value, these types of things. Public side, private side. Midnight adds in the private side in a decentralized way for the entire cryptocurrency ecosystem, but best on Cardano and launched by Cardano. When hair implants, I have a story about this. So I'm losing my hair. It's there. As you know, we're starting to get into stem cells. I'm going to try some stem cell stuff to see how effective it is. And you guys can watch my head. And if my hair comes back, then it means the stem cells work. And I'll be able to write a blog post about it. Is Midnight going to be airdropped to ADA holders? Yes, there will be a glacier drop. That's the distribution mechanism of Midnight. So you're eligible and then have to mine to produce it. And Cardano will be the largest distribution. And we're going to talk about that later, but we're getting very close. Charles, what video games have you been playing lately? Lately, none, because I've been so incredibly busy, but we are still making video games. In fact, I purchased with my brother a video game called Crystal Mines way, way back in the day. Now, Crystal Mines is a Nintendo game, came in a blue cartridge, and it came out like the late 80s or early 90s or something like that for Nintendo NES. We bought all the intellectual property, and we've been rebuilding the game from the ground up. And so that's one of the things that gets me very excited about the Nintendo emulator, is that once we have that running on Hydra and we have a DApp store, we have a distribution place for homebrew games in the NES and Super NES world, which is actually quite large. Go figure. And we're already getting ready for a launch title, and tentatively we think the game will be done next year by around July. With a whole bunch of upgraded features. We took the base game, completely rebuilt it in a programming language that was built specifically for the Nintendo to make it a lot easier to develop. So we don't have to write assembly, but we have a high-level language that compiles down. But we're adding a save function and an inventory system. We've written a whole plot for the game and a litany of other things. And there's a small team that's working in Gillette, Wyoming currently on this across the entire homebrew community. So there's going to be a lot of that, and I'd like to get to a development cadence where every 3 months we can launch an NES title. Charles, are you optimistic with RFK as FDA czar? He's not FDA czar. He's the boss of the boss of the boss. The HHS, Health and Human Services Secretary. That's the whole healthcare apparatus. And you're damn right I'm very excited about that. It's kind of funny. All these people run around saying, he's anti-science. Oh, God, what are we going to do? So let me get this straight. The sickest, fattest country that spends the most on healthcare and is getting sicker, fatter, and spending more on healthcare is worried that the guy coming in saying we need to change directions is going to change directions. Really, maybe, just maybe we should talk about seed oils. Maybe, just maybe we should talk about what's in our food. You go to Europe and, you read the label and it looks like it's food. You go to America and it has a bunch of shit you can't pronounce. Some places they use sugar in your food. We use high fructose corn syrup. Some places, it's fat is fat. And the other places it's low fat. They take it all out and replace it with a whole bunch of guck. And everybody's got diabetes now, and everybody's getting neural problems now. And then you see all this amazing research. There's this wonderful video showing 2 rats, one that has a normal rat diet and one that has American food. And they put them in a tank of water and see if they can swim to safety. And it only takes 5 seconds for the normal rat to get there. But the But then the rat that's been eating American food can't even get to the ledge. He's like brain damage from the American diet. It's not healthy, man. It's just not healthy at all. So we need to make some changes. And I'm really excited that we're going to make America healthy again. You got to work out. Since the ketamine retreat, I've been working out every day. Ran 30 miles last week. Got a whole bunch of calisthenics I'm starting to get into. I want to do those handstands, all that stuff. Gained 4 pounds of muscle, lost a few pounds of fat. And every day, just pushing through. 2 days of fasting a week. The other 5 days are eating days. And it's working really, really well. Feeling very nice. Charles, what was your last whiskey you had, and what is your favorite? I really like Glenmorangie and Macallan, but my favorite whiskey is Hibiki. The best drinking whiskey, so value for bottle, is Hibiki Harmony. Absolutely. And that was the last that I had in 2023. Haven't drank anything all year. It's a dry year. What the fuck did I just click on? Why is Charles talking about calisthenics? Because I'm thinking about it. One of these days you're going to see me do a handstand, and you're just going to be like, what's going on, man? I'll be like, yeah. Start with the frog stand. You work your way up to the handstand. Then you do the hand push-ups, the handstand push-ups. Get that shit done. And it's going to take about a year, I think. But I'm getting there. The mobility's coming back. The flexibility's coming back. I'm going to get one of those EMS catalyst suits that like shocks you while you work out, and just makes you in 20 minutes do like a 2-hour workout. Yeah, you're always optimizing. Always got to be optimizing. On what level do you think Cardano and XRP working together? I think we can add amazing DeFi components to XRP. I think they can add a lot of liquidity, and they can add a wonderful stablecoin layer. Bridges, definitely. And it would be super cool to see if there's a path to get Midnight working with XRP. So we're meeting with David Schwartz here in a little bit. I've been texting him back and forth. His people are talking to my people. I sent him over some of our papers as well as the code for Midnight, and we'll see where that goes. But again, they're nice people, and I've known them forever, and it's nice to have them back in the family. And we're going to figure this out as a group. Best books you've read this year? Well, I'll tell you what I'm reading right now. I'm reading The River of Doubt. It's about Teddy Roosevelt. I'll write up a thing for you guys on my blog, and I'm going to start writing again. I love writing. But The River of Doubt is, so what happened with Teddy Roosevelt's life was that he was president right at the turn of the 19th to 20th century, and he left office in 1908. He had 2 terms. He was the vice president under McKinley. McKinley was assassinated, and then he became president again. So when he left, Howard Taft took over, and then Roosevelt got bored basically being a private citizen. So he came back in 1912 and said, well, I want to be president again. So Taft, you need to abdicate and let me take the Republican nomination. Well, the party bosses said, no, you've had your time. Taft is in. But if you want to run again, you'll have to wait until 2016. 1916. And then we'll let you run. And he said, no, I'm going to run. So he ran as a third-party candidate called the Bull Moose Party. And it was an amazing campaign. He even got shot on the campaign. And while he was shot, he collapsed and got back up and still delivered a multi-hour speech. And, he was just a super tough guy, Teddy Roosevelt. But he still lost because of lack of mass media. And after he lost, he became a political pariah because he cost Taft the election and put in Woodrow Wilson. So all of his friends basically disowned him, and he was very isolated. So he decided to get his mind off of it, doing the thing that he always does, which is go on some death tour. So he went to South America, and he went on this amazing tour in 1913 throughout all of South America, and he decided to be the first white guy to sail up an area of the Amazon that was very unexplored called the River of Doubt. And it was a death-defying journey, and he nearly died on that journey. And it was just an incredible story. So the book is about that story, and after I finish it, I'll write something up. But I'm really enjoying it. It's a great read so far. Are you a Freemason? No, not a Freemason. On the Catholic side of things, we have a whole different thing going on. Charles, how's your glowing plant company? I want to plant with a switch. We're working on it. We'll have some stuff to say in 2025. I think you guys are going to be blown away and pleasantly surprised. Are you part of WEF? Dear God, no. I went one time to Davos. And I'll tell you guys this story. At the time, the Cardano Foundation had Nathan Kaiser and Domino Berkey and these other guys, and they know a lot of the people inside the Davos circle because the Swiss are a small club and everybody knows each other. So they said, "Hey, let's go to the World Economic Forum." And I'd never been. I heard it's this big thing, and I said, "All right, I'll go." So first off, it was $10,000 a night for hotel room. So I stayed 45 minutes out of Davos and took the train in. And that was the first thing. The second was that it's a class system. So they give you badges and based on your ticket level. And I couldn't afford to be like the big guy because it's over $100,000 a ticket. So I had the basic ticket and we just ran around, did interviews and talked to people. And everything was built basically by class. And so if you didn't have the big badge, everybody treated you like dirt, like you were a second class citizen. Every place you go, you have to go through security. It took 4 hours to get a basic meal at a hotel. And so it's just stopped eating there because it was so cumbersome. And it was just the most elitist and disgustingly contradictory place I've been. Say, oh, we care about the environment, but then like there's 45 private jets landing and helicopters coming every 15, 30 minutes. And, they're preaching everybody about what do we do about poverty, and they're all billionaires and these things. So suffice to say, it was not for me, and I've never been back, and I'm never going to go back. I do go to the Milken Institute from time to time, and because I know Mike Milken, and I've had dinner with him a few times, and I know a lot of the people in those Milken circles. That's kind of America's Davos. I actually, last time I went, I ran into Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner. That was the one in LA, like 2022 or 2023, I forget. Ironically, I think they put him at the same table as what's his name, Seth Rogen, who was not very happy about the experience. And I had a table, and that's actually the when I was sitting with Brad Garlinghouse of all people, and he wore the leprechaun outfit. Yeah, Milken was a bit of fun. And you get to meet a lot of cool people there. Elon Musk went one year, and a lot of celebrities go there, and you kind of get to talk about it. But it's the same vibe. There's a class system, and it's all about money and these things. I find that you can get so much more done through different means. I'm talking to people. Do you remember Sugar from back in 2013? The squirrel has been resurrected. Tell us the story. So as many of you know, I ran the Bitcoin Education Project. And one of the things I was doing back in 2013 was trying to create as much adoption of Bitcoin as possible. So I had this harebrained scheme back when Bitcoin was about $100 to bring in Sugarbush the squirrel. There was this lady who dresses up a squirrel in all these super cute costumes. And I posted on Bitcoin Talk a fundraiser to raise 10 Bitcoin, which would have been about $1,000, which was how much she was charging to dress up a squirrel. And I wanted to dress up Sugarbush the squirrel in a Bitcoin costume and do like a cryptocurrency theme. And I thought it would go viral and lots of people get excited about it, and it would create a ton of activity and excitement for Bitcoin. Back then, that's what we did. And I wasn't able to raise enough money. I think I only got 1 or 2 Bitcoin, so only a few $100s. But it was one of the ideas I came up with. Now, meme coiner is going to meme coin. So what's happened is that the meme coiners have discovered that post that I wrote 11 years ago. They've resurrected it and turned it into several meme coins that are now running around for Sugarbush the squirrel. But if there was ever anything to become a meme coin, Sugarbush is probably a good target because this woman has done a phenomenal job. If you Google Sugarbush the squirrel and you take a look at it, you can see all the different costumes, and it's just unbelievable what she's done and put together. And I don't know how you get a squirrel to dress up like that. And I'm vacillating. Like, she says squirrel's alive, but I think maybe it's a dead squirrel that she's moved around, or stuffed squirrel or something. because I don't understand how you can get a squirrel to stand still with those types of costumes. There's like Einstein, there's terrorist squirrel, there's police squirrel, there's president squirrel, there's Trump squirrel. She's done it all. It's absolutely amazing work. Hey, Charles, will Quantum Hosky run on midnight? We're still working on Quantum Hosky. It's one of those things in 2025 when I have a little bit more time I'll think about. But I have a reading list of several books on quantum mechanics and quantum computing. And then what I'm going to do is pull together a team of experts, and we're going to talk about some of the bizarre, weird things that are in the quantum world and what can be emulated through a von Neumann architecture. Once we figure that out, then what we can do is put together some ideas about how to run a quantum blockchain and take advantage of strange quantum effects and pull them in. So quantum information beacon. So if, for example, quantum random number generation, perhaps network resets based upon quantum events, parallel realities. There's a lot of really cool things. And also I'd like bringing hyperdimensional geometry into it as well. There's a thing you guys can Google called 4D for Derek, 4D Minecraft. And it talks about a Minecraft in four-dimensional space. So it'd be really cool to think about a blockchain in like a hyperdimensional space with quantum effects, and then put it together into Quantum Hosky. Thank you for vindicating my belief in you for all these years. Well, thank you, Rich. That's really kind of you to say. I appreciate that. There were some hard times, and for all of us, myself included. And it's good to be back. And it's good to see that the love never went away and that there's so many amazing people in the Cardano ecosystem. What other Polkadot crossovers are there? Well, we're really excited to see where Jam goes. That's a great innovation. We met with some of the Polkadot people in Argentina. They had a booth there at the tech forum that we attended where Malay was at. And we're going to be doing a lot of upstream contributions to substrate from improvements that we've made because of Midnight. So we're all in the family now. Let's see, will we be able to delegate DREPs via Daedalus? I believe so, yes. Do you have a dog or a cat? I have both. You keep in contact with Gavin? How is he? I haven't talked to Gavin in years, but I hear he's quite well. He's quite relaxed, rested. He's got his family office. He's got all this stuff going on. Life is pretty good for Gavin Wood. He's a brilliant mind. He's a brilliant engineer. Aura Ring, is it worth it? Yes, it's great. I get phenomenal data, and I sleep very well. When can we expect news regarding the NDA thing? Is it this year? I would hope 4 to 8 weeks, but we'll see. Talk to your bartender in Osaka, did not believe in crypto at all, and still says you're just a normal dude. That's why I trust Ada. So you've met Eddie from Good Times. I love Eddie, man. Give him my best. He is an amazing guy. He works 11 months a year in Osaka, and then he saves all of his money up. He goes back to Ghana 1 month and spends time with his family. But he's getting ready to retire here, and then when he does, he'll move back to Ghana full time. But Eddie's gone through an amazing life journey. Welcome to my bar. How can we support you? Well, just by doing what you guys are doing. Join Intersect, become a DREP, become a SIP editor, support the ecosystem, build stuff in the ecosystem, and tell people how magical Cardano and crypto is. Merci, Charles. S'il vous plaît, monsieur. Will you partner with XLM? I actually just sent an email to Jed actually a few days ago, but we're talking about an unrelated matter. But we're all talking. Like Karen Chang, for example, the GM of Partner Chains. She was the director of engineering at Stellar, and also Stellar is a member of some of the things that we do. So we talk to them from time to time. They're good people. Charles, where do you stand on the Second Amendment? It shall not be infringed. It is an American right. It's always been an American right. I am a gun owner myself. At this point, I think I have enough for an armory. And it's just part of our tradition as a country. Individual states do get involved, and states and federal government always have to balance the need for local versus federal regulation. And that's part of federalism, is figuring out that balance and how to put that balance together. But it's not possible to live in Wyoming and not be a fan of the Second Amendment. When you get to the border, they hand you a gun. When Nike pick game, we are going to make a video game for Nike. It's going to happen on Nintendo. So it'll be, I say we got to get to a cadence of every 3 months releasing a game. And so we'll build up that group of people and get ourselves where we need to go. It would be really cool to do a Nike game, but also it'd be really cool to price the Nike game in the Charles token. So that's the only way you can acquire it. Those are those crossovers that we're looking for in the cryptocurrency space. He's a good pig. Thoughts on the UAP hearing? Holy shit. You got a guy sitting down who's part of Arrow, like the office at the Pentagon that's responsible for studying these things, saying they've recovered biologics, i.e. bodies, and it happened before he was born. So, and that guy's not young, so probably more than 60 years ago. And that we've encountered these things, and they have capabilities beyond our technology. And also they have the ability to disable our nuclear weapons and other such things. Blows my mind, man. I think during the Trump administration, something's going to come out, and we're going to finally know what all these UAPs are about. What's your opinion on Keystone? I assume you're meaning the Keystone wallet, not the Keystone pipeline. Keystone wallet, I'm going to get one of them and talk to the team. It'd be real cool to do a Twitter space with them, get to know more. It's nice to have some competition. It makes people move a little faster and be a little bit more honest. Farming simulator. Actually, that would be pretty cool, like a Farmville Nike operation. Nike's running a farm. Do a whole animal farm thing. Remember the 5th of November. Mm-hmm. Are there any updates on major stablecoins for Cardano? I think we're making great progress in that area, and there's more to come. It'll be kind of the little big. So little are things like homebrew stuff in Cardano, and big are the name brand stablecoins. And we're working and firing it on all cylinders there, but I'll have more to say in a few weeks. What's your daily routine like? This is the life hack, right? Get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, get hit in the nuts, then lay on a bed of nails while cobras bite me. After that, pour acid on my face just to see if it heals. No. So I get up around usually 4:30 to 5 a.m., depending upon whether I have calls to Europe or not. Get up a little earlier for calls because I need to be in the office by 7 a.m. for that. Otherwise, I'm usually in the office by about 8 a.m. Work out, meditate for about 45 minutes. Then I go into the office, spend a lot of time doing deep work and calls and these types of things. Then sometimes I throw a cold plunge in, and lately I've been doing a lot of stuff with Shakti nails. And then, a lot of reading. Then after maybe 2-3 o'clock, I free up and sometimes take a nap. Bought the condo upstairs, and we change it over and call it the napatorium. So I just take the elevator up and go into the napatorium, get some sleep. And then if I have a workout session with my personal trainer, Sven, I'll work out on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays. Otherwise, I go back to the house and go grab some dinner. So not the most glorious of things. A lot of reading, a lot of work, meditation, exercise. You do these types of things. I do have an immortal chamber, which is a pretty cool device. Let me show you guys. Just open up the website for it. Yeah, so let me go ahead and share my screen. All right, let's see here. Present, share screen. Wow! There we go. Boom! There we go. So it's a really cool device. Basically, you got red light here. This is vibroacoustics and PEMF here. That is molecular hydrogen nasal cannula there. And they have speakers that are there and there and there and there. So it's 5 modalities all together. That's what the coils look like. Vibrates your whole body. It's a very relaxing experience, actually. And there's different programs. So for deep recovery, the Immortal Chamber works incredibly well. And actually, we're starting to get into vibroacoustics already for medical applications. And one thing that I'm super interested in is pineal gland stimulation to decalcify and also create endogenous DMT. So basically, you target the pineal gland with vibrations, and then over time, it actually starts releasing DMT, and you might even be able to get it to release a burst to knock you into a psychedelic state. So super cool stuff. And we have a research program that we're starting actually at the clinic next year to begin investigating the technologies and modalities required for that. And I'll let you guys know more when we have more to say. Will the ADA Treasury be used for marketing Cardano? Well, you know what? If the budget passes, my belief is yes, because that's part of the current budget discussion is how do we do that? So vote yes on the budget. Immortal Chamber, is it hot? It's not terribly hot. Hey, Charles, what's up with Crypto Bison? We gave it to Roman, the CTO of IOG, and he's putting a team together to launch it. This was always his passion project. So we'll see it work its way through. If not, we'll put it into the Nintendo game rotation. Charles, is the 36 trillion national debt the elephant in the room? That's not the elephant. That's the blue whale in the room. That's the blue whale and the 3 cousins of the blue whale and their friend, the sperm whale, in the room, all sitting in the room. And we're just pretending to ignore them as they go, wow. That's why we have the Doge now, the Doge of America, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy. Basically, they're going to try to cut $2 trillion off of our $6.3 trillion budget. So we'll see how that goes. It's going to be a titanic experience. But, the thing is, guys, do we really need 16 intelligence agencies? Really? Do we really need 16 of them? Do we really need to spend all the money that we spend? We can't find a little bit of a cut somewhere, somehow, for someone, maybe? I think we can. They're going to figure it out. He's the Doge. Charles, have you tried raw garlic or tabs for a few weeks? Amazing health benefits, life-changing. I always love getting pizzas with the big garlic cloves on them. They got the sliced garlic, and they bake it in. And I feel so much better after I eat that. So, yeah, I got to start doing that. Although some people tell me garlic's a neurotoxin. So, it's like no matter what you do, there's always one guy on one side, one guy on the other side talking about it. What do you think about Charlie 3? A lot of work we got to do in the Oracle side. This is stablecoins and oracles, 2 things we got to get right in 2025 for Cardano. I think Midnight changes the Oracle game. I really do. It has all this stuff that's coming together that's going to make Midnight a really powerful play in the Oracle space, especially given it has a privacy component to it. I think because the hybrid application model, it makes a lot of sense to use Midnight is the Oracle layer for Cardano, and actually, it would be really cool to see Charlie 3 deploy in that environment. And it adds a competitive USP over the existing standards that are there. Is the Lace team working on a mobile version? Yes, they are definitely doing that, and we're building a dedicated office in Argentina to do the mobile app development. So we'll have a whole team down there. Why are oracles so important? Well, why do you have to take your pants off with sex? I mean, everything useful that you want to do with a smart contract generally means you have to inject information into the smart contract that the smart contract can't natively see from the system. So the price of Bitcoin, the price of ADA, this is something Cardano doesn't know. You can't really derive it endogenously. It has to get it from external sources. Did the president win the election? How would the Cardano network know that? So prediction markets, real life, real fi, DeFi, it requires an injection of an external state, and that is what an oracle does. So it's a core part of all smart contracts. You take your pants off? Yeah, I do. How's the ranch life? It's actually pretty good. Bison are having a lot of fun. Yeah, don't have sex through a zipper. What the hell is wrong with you? People are cretins. How do you handle criticism and failure? It's a great question. There are healthy ways to do it, and there are unhealthy ways to do it. An unhealthy way to do it is just let it roll off of you. And you say, oh, it doesn't mean anything, whatever. Because actually, what happens is that it leaves behind a little bit of trauma, a little bit of damage. And you don't think it does, but it leaves a little bit of stuff there. And especially the stuff where the criticism and failures are kind of your fault. It's something that they're being unfair about it, perhaps, but they are talking about things that happen, that are real, that are true. So you have to, instead of just letting it roll off of you, you have to have a cleansing mechanism where regularly you go deep inside yourself and you start sorting things out. And you say, okay, what are the things that are bothering me? And what are the things that I'm at fault for? And you have to have a system to kind of debate it, discuss it, and forgive yourself for the things that are problematic and let those things go. That's why psychedelics are very powerful, because they give you the ability to do that quickly and rapidly and without judgment. But you also can do this with therapy. You can also do this with other techniques. There's many doors that lead to the enlightenment, and every door has a key in it, and practitioners are the people who give you the key. You can discover one yourself, or you can work with people and they can give you one, but you still have to walk to the door. So don't ignore criticism, and don't ignore failure. Learn how to react to failure and criticism, and learn how to process failure and criticism, and build into your lifestyle checkpoints where you do that. Maybe quarterly, maybe biannually, at least yearly, where you do that. You take time apart, you separate for a second, you reset, you go deep, you analyze the things that have happened in life, you clear them, get them off your desk, have a clean office, and then you come out on the other side, you feel very good. And also get addicted to the small wins. Nothing builds you back better than, instead of trying to do something huge, just try to set your life up so that you can have a small victory every day. That's why I love working out, and I love the meditation, these types of things. You wake up, you can do 30 minutes, you can do an hour, you can go and get that done. It's not hard. Even if you don't think you can, well, then say you can do 3 minutes. Name one person who can not do 3 minutes of workout. Come on, most people can. Put your gym shoes on, get down there, do that 3 minutes. And then you find out that since you're already there, yeah, maybe I can do 5, or maybe I can do 10, or whatever. Those small wins create atomic habits that build their way up. So you create a cue, you develop a craving for it, you have a response to the activity, and then ultimately a reward. And there's a great book called Atomic Habits that talks about that in more detail. Can you tell me more about this 7 days of darkness you're planning on doing? Yeah, it's going to be a most challenging thing I think I've ever done. I keep upping the ante. So this is the most challenging until the next thing in April, which will be even more challenging than the darkness retreat and certainly more painful and more dangerous, probably super dangerous. And then there's another thing we're negotiating that if it closes, that be even more dangerous and challenging than what I'm doing in April. So, it's starting to turn into Teddy Roosevelt here. But the 7 days of darkness basically means that you prep yourself psychologically, you have an intention. So in this case, I'm reading the Bardo Thodol, which is an ancient book written by the Lotus Buddha in Tibet in year 800. And basically, I'm entering in with the Bardo Thodol, so all the techniques and methods and things, and gives you a set of tools to reflect upon your own death. And basically, the point of the Bardo Thodol is it talks in a very esoteric way that after you die, your brain disconnects from your body, and you go through a 49-day journey in 3 major stages, and each stage of that journey leads to either reincarnation or true enlightenment. Okay, so you have to basically relive and relitigate every part of your life and being and all the things you've done well and not so well. And there are practices and techniques and meditations to basically help you do that while you're alive. So you can have some perspective of what would happen after you die, according to the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Well, a darkness retreat is really interesting because you're kind of simulating the environment of death. You've gone into a dark room and there's no external stimulus. There's no light. There's no external sound. You're completely alone with yourself. No digital devices, no distractions. And how they feed you is they have a double door system. They open up one door, they put the food in, you close it. It's light tight. And then you open up your door and you pull out and eat in the darkness. So you bathe in the darkness, you eat in the darkness. So after the extreme boredom recedes, you can then start going on this journey, and then over the course of the entire week, go through the entire Bardo Thodol and basically see what insights come. Now, if you were to do this to another person against their will, it would be a war crime, according to the Geneva Convention. And perhaps in the intelligence community, they use this in the opposite direction. They created what are called white rooms, where they put people in for torture into rooms where everything's white. They put white clothing on you, feed you rice, and you go insane from being under constant whiteness. So darkness is the other direction. After about 4 days, your brain makes DMT. So not only do you exist in this room, but you start hallucinating at some of the highest levels, and you go to just completely different realms of existence. So it is an insanely hard thing to do, to sit there for 7 days with yourself and analyze these things. So that's what I'm going to be doing next. And I'll write all about it, tell you guys all about it after I finish. Charles, do you believe in reincarnation? Well, I'll have a different opinion about it after I go to the spirit world of life and death, right? Shit, you got to do. You come back with all these new ideas, make Cardano better. Yeah, yeah. That sounds like it would fuck your sleep up. Yeah, your circadian rhythm goes to motherfucking hell. It's actually one of the physicians I'm talking to about this. We just hired a sleep medicine expert for my clinic, and I'm going to talk to her about how to reset and restore a circadian rhythm after such a traumatic event. Do you worry about media attacks since now working with Trump? Well, did it work with Trump? 89% of the media was negative, and he still became president. What we witnessed with this election is the death of the mainstream media. Their narratives just don't work anymore. The things they say don't work anymore. And the conversations they have are so vacuous and shallow. Nobody pays attention, which is why MSNBC is probably going to be sold. CNN is doing mass layoffs. The model's broken. And that's why Jeff Bezos wrote that article the other day where he prevented them from endorsing Kamala. And he said, we have to be perceived to be nonpartisan and not biased. And currently, we're obviously partisan and biased. So the whole makeup is going to change, and it's going to take a little bit of time. It's kind of like when 80s rock turned into 90s rock. They wanted to continue the 80s rock, all the bands there, like the Scorpions and Metallica, and then I guess there was Motley Crue and the canonical 80s bands. And then in 90s you had grunge, and you had Nirvana, and these types of things. And the music industry kind of got blindsided because they thought it was going to be a continuation of the 80s, and there's a different style. So that's going to happen with media. There's going to be a renaissance of media, and long form media is back in. Podcasts are back in. Rogan's far more powerful than any of the newspapers or these things. And people who embrace those formats are rewarded. JD Vance and Trump went on Rogan. They spent 3 hours unrestricted. Kamala said that Rogan had to go to her. It was only going to be an hour. She has to see all the questions in advance. They have edit control of the interview. That's what you could ask for 60 Minutes, but you can't ask that for Joe Rogan, because it's the Joe Rogan experience. And you're going to go on and have the experience. That's how they roll. So the fact that Trump won and she didn't, it says that you have to submit to this new model. And so future politicians on both sides of the political aisle and everywhere in between, they're going to start embracing it. And you see it, like Fetterman went on the Joe Rogan experience. That's very brave of him to do. He has the brain damage from the stroke, and it's really hard for him to process language. And you're going to go and talk to Joe Rogan for 2 hours on a podcast. But he had a lot of bravery to go on, and kudos to him. And Bernie Sanders went on, and other people went on. So that is where we're moving. And that type of media, the criticism is really different. The criticism is about your ideas. The criticism is about things you haven't thought through enough, or perhaps there's a conduct issue, but at least get to explain your side of the story, instead of 100% is virtue signaling 24/7. So we live in a different world now. I mean, if he can be a senator, he should probably be able to talk to Joe Rogan or anyone. Yeah, it's true, but has a disability, and it's hard for him. And as I said, it takes a lot of courage, because it's not like you're just talking to some guy. You're gonna have 25 million people listening to you, and if you make mistakes or you don't sound coherent or these things, it could really hurt you. And the fact he had the courage, despite those impediments, to go and have an unrestricted 2-hour conversation. Contrast that with Harris, who didn't, and wanted only an hour and wanted to be heavily restricted. It just tells you that the old way of doing things doesn't work anymore. There's a new way of doing things. What's your favorite philosopher and why, and your favorite mathematician? Philosophy changes over time. When I was growing up, I was very black and white in my mindset. So I loved Bertrand Russell, and it was analytic philosophy. It's like there's a deduction that you can use, and you can understand the entire universe through a series of deductions and calculations. And there's a way to analytically think around the construction of reality, whether it be metaphysics or epistemology or ethics. He had a lot to say about ethics. He had a lot to say about epistemology. A lot to be desired on the metaphysics side, because he was so rigid and atheistic that it's like the metaphysics just don't exist. They're delusions. Why I'm Not a Christian was one of Russell's favorite essays that he wrote. And as I've gotten older and I've become a bit more immersed in world and culture, and I've had a chance to see many different things, I'm starting to become more enamored with process philosophy. This idea that we live in one big tapestry. But I'll have more to say about that in a bit. There's a lot more to say about that. It's deep. But in general, you have to have, for it to be a good philosophical system, an ability to engage with the problems of your time and the existential problems of existence. And any good philosophical system should give you the ability to derive meaning from life. It's so important to be able to derive meaning. You have to be able to connect yourself in some way and find a thread of what is your life about. The vast majority of unhappy people and unmotivated people that I've found are people without a mission, people without a meaning. They don't know why they're here. They can't understand it. They, in some cases, don't care. And you ask them, well, what's your life goal? And I just go to work. I don't know. And they're lost. And imagine being in a boat in darkness, just adrift on the sea. with no particular direction to go. It's not a very satisfying life. And that's where most people are at. So good philosophical systems, what they do is they give you the ability to navigate and find a place to go. And they find, if really good ones, give you the ability to enjoy the journey as you travel. That's what Albert Camus was talking about. He's another one of my favorite philosophers, absurdism. When you wrote about Sisyphus and the story of Sisyphus enjoying pushing the boulder, and you'll often hear me reference that. There is such a kernel of truth to these types of things. Bonus points if your philosophical system also has the ability to accept paradoxes and find ways to resolve them, and your philosophical system has the ability to deal with unknowable things in a way that doesn't destroy the system. So there's all these things that we don't quite understand, like consciousness and panpsychism and so forth. And we don't really have good frameworks at the moment to encapsulate them in such a way that you can absolutely say, yeah, this is how it should work, like we do with physics, for example, and the fundamental laws of physics. So good philosophical systems give you the ability to flirt with these things and play around with them, but you don't get so lost in it that you never get anywhere, or you don't ignore it. Like that's one of the problems with Richard Dawkins or any of these people that are hardcore atheists. They have decided on a construction of the universe with the senses, cognition, and facts that they have today. And they're religious about it. They say religion is evil. Mysticism is evil. It causes harm and ignorance and destroys humanity. Okay. Well, it's a vital component of our ability to survive. In fact, every single major culture has an ascendancy and a collapse. And during the collapse, you go through some terrible times. For example, when the Pilgrims came to America, Jamestown, they just discovered some bones recently and they analyzed them. They found out that probably there was cannibalism in 1607 to 1610 from the famine that was occurring there. You could see the cut marks in the skull from where they were skinning people. That's pretty hard times when you start eating each other. So what keeps you going is some sort of transcendent faith. And if you strip faith away from people, they lose their ability to deal with the unknowable, and they lose their ability to navigate life, and they descend into a state where it's quite difficult to be happy. It's not impossible, but it's quite difficult because basically you're just limited by you. And when you admit something metaphysically above you, then you now have the potential of growth. You have the potential that there's something out there. And we're learning all the time. Like, for example, the brain seems to be a quantum computer. There's a lot of discussion about this from Roger Penrose's research, that there's quantum-like effects that are connected to cognition. Well, that means quantum entanglement could potentially come into play. And that means humans to non-humans could be connected in ways that we couldn't even possibly understand over unlimited distances. There's a big deal there. And so there's so much more to the story. And to judge the story solely based upon the system that we're running, the hardware that we're running, knowing full well that hardware is very primitive compared to the scope and scale of the universe. So a good philosophical system should give you the ability to navigate a universe where your hardware is incomplete and your knowledge is very incomplete, and that there's unlimited potential for growth, and to have a joy in your heart as you go about it. Now, in terms of mathematics, there's a lot of mathematicians like Ed Finkel and Terry Tao and others that I deeply admire because of their colossal brilliance, and they're really pushing the state-of-the-art mathematics, and they've devoted themselves to mathematical education. Jeremy Avogadro is another one. He's the director of the Hoskinson Center for Formal Mathematics. He's what I consider to be a complete mathematician. He's an equal part philosopher as he is computer scientist, as he is mathematician, and he put all pieces together. And he thinks about math as a system in addition to the problems of mathematics, and he worries very deeply about it. He's a phenomenal teacher as well, and a great communicator of science. Historical mathematicians, I have great admiration for Grothendieck, and a great admiration for Riemann and Henri Poincaré. I think these were mathematicians of colossal intellect. Gauss obviously was probably the smartest of all of them, but actually the least useful because he refused to show what was behind the curtain. So he came up with these brilliant insights, but he wouldn't reveal the scratch work. So while he pushed mathematics along, unfortunately, how to think the way Gauss thought, it was never really focused on. That's why I like people more like George Poya, for example, or Paul Halmos, who devoted an enormous amount of time into discussing the process of thinking in doing these things. There are mathematical philosophers like Joel Damon Hampkins is another one, Lectures on the Philosophy of Mathematics, which is a great book and highly recommend if people want to understand more about the philosophical underpinnings of mathematics. I think more in systems these days. Do you fly your Black Hawk to and from work? No. Just to the ranch. I can't imagine being this smart. 1 + 1 = 2. Well, actually, I tell you, going back to Bertrand Russell and Alfred North Whitehead, they wrote a book called The Principles of Mathematics. It's 1,000 pages long, and they were unifying arithmetic and logic together. And the conclusion of the book was 1 + 1 = 2. So yes, 1 + 1 = 2. But how do you know? And how do you build a mathematical system where that's self-evident inside the system without stating it as an axiom? Have you been to a silent meditation retreat? Yes, I have. I wrote a blog post about it. I went for a week to Red Feather Lakes, to the Shambhala Center. I guess it's now the Drala Center. And I spent a whole week not talking to anybody and just, humble eyes. You look down in silent meditation. It was a very transformative experience, and I truly enjoyed it. Kurt Gödel. Good old Kurt Gödel. What about him? I assume you're talking about Gödel's incompleteness theorem. Charles, are you familiar with Joseph Campbell and his work, The Power of Myth? Yeah, the monomyth, the hero's journey that you go on. Yeah, there's like Joseph Campbell, there's Jung, and now we got Jordan Peterson. He's like the apostle, who's taking these types of things up. Succinctly, you have this concept that people have to go through a struggle. So you start in an idealized state, and everything's okay. And the perfect hero's journey is Frodo in Lord of the Rings. That is like the hero's journey. He's in the Shire. He's just having fun. He's living life. There's no problems in the Shire. He's like, Mr. Frodo. He's got the little hair on the feet. He's having fun. And then suddenly something occurs that disrupts life. And it's a call to adventure, a call to action. So in this case, Gandalf shows up and Bilbo disappears, and then Frodo gets the ring. And then suddenly Frodo's been cast into a very uncomfortable, unpredictable, and significantly more dangerous world. And he has to go with a mission through a series of obstacles. And every step of the way, it tests him as a person and forces him to grow. And he confronts all dimensions of himself. He understands what true friendship is. When Samwise Gamgee goes with him, he was going to go it alone. And Sam basically said, no, I'm going with you. After the fellowship broke up, he has mentors along the way, but loses those mentors because he outgrows the need for Gandalf. Had Gandalf went along the entire way, wouldn't have been a very good story for Frodo, because Frodo would always be reliant upon Gandalf. So he had to outgrow the father or the wizard. And then he goes through all these challenges and he confronts death. And then he sees the consequence of failure in Gollum. So if he screws up his mission, he'll become Gollum. And then he says, I'll never be Gollum. But then towards the end of the movie, the end of the book, I should say, he actually almost becomes Gollum, and it requires Sam to kind of bail him out for that, which shows the value of connections and friendship. And the thing that made Sméagol different from Frodo was that Sméagol didn't have a Samwise Gamgee. So it's like this amazing journey when you kind of go through it, and he comes out the other side. And when he comes back to the Shire, he's grown so much that he's outgrown the Shire. And even if he could stay, he had no desire to stay, because the reality is that he's such a different person in the hero's journey. And typically when you slay the dragon, you share all of those gifts with everybody. So his gift was the gift of knowledge. And so he finished the book and then gave it to everybody and said, the story is something to inspire future generations. And then he goes off with the elves to, basically live in a different place because he can't live in the Shire anymore. So Joseph Campbell really did a hell of a job kind of abstracting that concept and constructing a format for stories. And most of human history, if you read the good stories, there's some variation of this type of struggle. From you live in peace, there's a call to action, the struggle, the slaying of the dragon, the sharing of the rewards, and the growth of the hero. And there's some life story. Luke Skywalker is another phenomenal example. It's why the old Star Wars movies were so good and the new ones are so terrible. So with Luke Skywalker, compare that to Rey. Let's kind of walk through it. So with Luke, he's living in a comfortable place as kind of a farmer in Tatooine, no problems at all. He's just doing his thing. And then suddenly there's a call to adventure with the droid, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're my only hope. And it pushes him out of that comfortable world. And then he finds himself going through a series of challenges, and then eventually blows up the Death Star. And in the process of doing that, he thinks he's a big bad superhero. And then he goes to complete his training with Yoda, but he doesn't listen. And then he goes and fights Darth Vader in Hoth and, in Bespin, the flying city. And Vader messes him up, fucking cuts his hand off and just breaks him to pieces. And he's like, holy shit, this Vader dude is no joke. I now understand how powerful the dark side is. And then he comes back in Return of the Jedi, and he grows so much that not only does he defeat his father, but he defeats him in a way that nobody expected, where he converted his father to the light side, which was an impossible task to do. And he and his father together slayed Darth Sidious, and he kind of redeemed that entire arc. So Luke went on this amazing hero's journey every step of the way, and he loses parts himself, like getting his hand chopped off and all this other stuff. But we were rooting for him the entire time, and we lived all the ups, but we lived all the downs. And there were so many surprises and twists and turns along the way. Now contrast that with Rey, where she started already at the top. There's no hero's journey throughout the modern trilogy. She already knows everything. She knows more about the Millennium Falcon than Han Solo does. Her first lightsaber fight wins it with no training. She's smarter than Luke Skywalker, the greatest Jedi ever to be. Every step of the way, she's always just at the top of her power. So there's nothing interesting about that character. Where's the struggle? What does it mean? It's just very poorly constructed character development compared to the journey that Luke Skywalker went on, which is why Luke is a timeless character and people struggle to remember anything significant about Rey. So the hero's journey is not the only way to structure a story, but it's a wonderful way when you really think about it to structure, because it connects to all of us, gives us all hope. Because how many of you listening are in your own life and you're just doing the same thing? You're going to work every day and you're comfortable and you got your dog at home and, like, all right, because Thanksgiving, shit, we got to figure this out. And imagine what would happen in your life if some wizard just fucking showed up and it's like, we're going to go to some crazy place. We're going to go do some stuff. And you're like, what? Who the fuck are you? Get away. Like, no, he grabs you and takes you into like a completely different world. And all this scary shit happens and you make friends along the way and sleep with one of the elves and all that stuff. Is like, wow, that's the coolest fucking thing in the world. That's what makes stories interesting, because all the interesting people, they go on a hero's journey. George Washington did, Napoleon did, some turned to the dark side like Napoleon did, some turned to the light side like George did. And every step of the way you learn as you go. The ancients, like Plutarch, for example, he would write about pairings. So he took a Greek and a Roman and paired them together and found parallels in their lives for studying virtue. Julius Caesar and Alexander the Great were the most famous pairing, but he made many pairings inside of his book. So that was very common in ancient literature. We don't tend to do that anymore. Charles, do you think the Tyson fight was staged? Yeah, it's a hard one. It may have been. It's very clear that Jake Paul could have knocked out Mike Tyson, but he chose not to do it. He let it go all 8 rounds for the spectacle of it. And it's also very clear that Tyson was hurt and his legs had deteriorated. He didn't have the footwork. See, Tyson's a small guy. He's like 5'10", maybe 5'9", and he didn't have as long of a reach as a lot of these other heavyweight guys who are a lot bigger, like 6'4". So what Tyson does is he does this peekaboo and really amazing footwork and really amazing body work, and he gets close And then he has these back plays that he does, and he just beats the hell out of you with these insanely powerful punches. And he's so fast. If you look at the early knockouts that Tyson did, just insanely fast. So he couldn't close the distance because his footwork was incredibly slow, and it's clear his back is not where it needs to be. So he can get the power that he used to get with his peekaboo style. So that's what age does to you. And I'm sorry to say it. After 2 rounds in, Tyson just didn't have the gas to keep going, and Jake Paul basically tried to make a spectacle of it. He didn't try to humiliate Tyson, but he did try to keep up with it. And it is what it is. I really wish that we could have had a crack at Tyson, because we probably could have worked with Mini Circle and all these other guys. And what I would have done on a training regimen is do a combined hypo and hyperbarics protocol, where you put them on low oxygen, high altitude, destroy all the senescent mitochondria, and then put them in the hyperbarics environments. And then you kind of get a whole body rejuvenation, heavy doses of stem cells, ton of reaction time training, ton of calisthenics. Just get him loose, get him limber, get him stretched out, get his body where it needs to go, and just dial up the speed, dial up the speed, dial up the speed. A lot of stuff to augment VO2, get his lungs into a much stronger state, and get him young mitochondria. And then I think he would have had the energy and the technique to be able to be old Mike Tyson again, and he probably could have done a lot better. But that's a big overhaul. Take about a year and a lot of work, and like state of the art science that would have to come into play. And is it really worth it? Whether he does really well or not, he's still made $20 million, and he's Mike Tyson. And I think he just approached the fight that way. And you could see him walking out. He was zoned in, and it was good to be back. He was biting his glove like he used to do. And there was hints of old Tyson there every now and then. But I was sad we didn't get to see the old Tyson, because it would have been fun to see Jake Paul get his ass kicked. It'd have been fun. But, he's going to keep getting more arrogant, and somebody's going to humble him. Mesenchymal cells. Yeah, adipose-derived mesenchymal cells, autologous transplant. Charles, ever play Age of Empires 2? Oh, hell yeah. I also played Age of Empires 1. The Babylonian campaign was my favorite. The undercards in that fight were the best. I absolutely love the undercard fights. They were incredible. Those 2 gals going at each other, Taylor and the other one, I forget her name. Taylor, the headbutter. A lot of headbutting. This Tyson fight did cost me a lot of money on Polymarket. You bet on a 58-year-old man. Tyson won $20 million. Not bad. Yeah, not bad at all. 16 minutes for $20 million. Jerry Jones was real happy. No. I have people who have met Tyson, seen him. They say he's 5'10", 5'11". Nah, man, nah. Careful what you read on the internet. Who is Satoshi? Adam Beck. Are you familiar with the science of zero-point energy and the work that's been done on over-unity? So the over-unity stuff, I remember talking to the Orbo guys years ago about it. It seemed like a bunch of malarkey to me, and they went out of business. Zero-point energy is a whole different ballpark, and I'm not a physicist, and I don't understand enough about it, so I won't comment on that. But maybe one day I'll learn about it. Your opinion on Bruce Lee? He's Bruce Lee. He's an OG. The best part of Bruce Lee is when he fought Chuck Norris, and people recut the scene where they're fighting to put romantic music as they're stripping. You'll find it if you look for it. That's the best part. StarCraft. What race? Zerg, Terran, or Protoss? I played all three. The Carrier Rush and the Battleship Rush with the Terran and the Protoss are the way to go. But we're talking StarCraft 1, right? A whole different ballpark. Best 3 programming languages. Well, I'd say in terms of use and utility, like if I'm talking to a kid who says, I want to be a programmer and I just want to learn it all, I would tell you to learn 3 languages and you will be completely up to date and you can go pretty much anywhere you want to go in the programming world. JavaScript, Python, and Rust. This is coming from a Haskell guy who likes functional programming and loves that whole world. The reason being is the Rust family gets you the entire C world, C, C++, systems programming, all the real serious adult applications. All your web shit is JavaScript, and you're always going to need it. It's never going to go away. It's the lingua franca of the internet. And Python gets you the data science and the machine learning world. And there's all kinds of really cool things that you can do inside that world. And so if you know those 3 ecosystems, you can get anywhere you want to go in programming language. Then you learn languages based upon the problems you want to solve. Large scale distributed systems, there's stuff to do that. There's programming techniques like CSP. There's whole languages like Erlang, and they have the OTP with Erlang. Haskell has a bunch to say about it. High assurance coding, Spark. It's a variant of Ada, or Haskell, or Agda, or Coq with OCaml. These types of things. Okay, so the whole vertical for that. Aerospace industry, health industry, certain blockchain or cryptography applications. You want to write software for the enterprise, the Java virtual machine world. You're going to be in the JVM or .NET. So there's whole families of languages there. So, Scala, Kotlin, et cetera, et cetera. You want to do programming language research. Lisp world is really, really good to be in then. And Clojure is amazing. Scheme is amazing. These are application specific, but general purpose, I'd say Python, JavaScript, and Rust are the 3 to go with. What if you wanted to do Haskell? Well, yeah, that's fine. And actually, having knowledge of imperative programming does help. But remember, there are functional components in all programming languages now. The immutable library in JavaScript, for example, and there's actually even a Haskell variant of JavaScript called PureScript. And then there's also a functional paradigm in JavaScript called Ramda that exists. And you can do functional Python, and then there's tons of functional techniques in Rust. So it's like 80% to Haskell. If you really want to learn Haskell, though, you also have to learn the mathematical side of it. So you have to learn about category theory and the algebraic representation so you can understand this whole monad thing, where it comes from. Probably the best way to get into Haskell is to learn about Elm, ELM. And what's really cool is functional reactive programming. It's for interface design. So you learn your JavaScript, then you go to Elm, and then you start building UX in Elm. And you learn a lot about functional programming in that part. And you can visually see it. You can have fun with it. You can play around with it. But if you're going to learn about Haskell, you have to learn the mathematical foundations for you to really understand why it's useful. And you also, along the way, learn a lot about type theory. Don't forget he is from MIT University, is the breeding ground for brainwashing and propaganda, including MIT. Do not trust this clown. MIT? Who are we talking about for MIT? I didn't go to MIT. Yeah, wait. I missed the thread in the comments section. You had me at Ramda. Any thoughts on Terrace Howard's ideas and the breakthroughs in bioluminescence? We already talked about bioluminescence. So Terrence Howard is the classic idea, the classic concept of a Dunning-Kruger. When you walk into a field of science, there's a gift to you, and it's a profound gift. All these people who died before you were born spent their entire lives building this beautiful foundation. And they debated it, and they discussed it, and they did these incredible things with it. And there's all this magic in their stories and their challenges and their struggles, but they give that to you for free. It's like being born into a beautiful castle with all these servants. Okay, it's not a new field. Mathematics and physics and biology and chemistry and these other things, they exist long before any of us were born, and long after we're all dead, they'll still be around. Your first task when you enter into those fields is to be humble and be a student. So it's not about adding, it's about taking away. Your cup is full with preconceived notions and biases and other such things, and you empty your cup. And then you have your empty cup. And you have the humility to absorb all that knowledge that came before. And then after you learn that, that's the shoe part of it. The next step is then you start demonstrating that you have a mastery or understanding. So you're climbing up Bloom's taxonomy of knowledge. Okay, so you've gone from I understand it to I can explain it to I can apply it, and then you start moving to higher order thinking. Okay, the next three parts of the pyramid. And as you move that higher order thinking, you're starting to move into analysis mode, and you're starting to move into compare and contrast, and eventually you get to a point where you can start creating new things. So that's the ha, and then the ri, shu ha ri. You learn, you do, and then you master, and then go on and create new stuff. So what Terence did is he skipped to the last part of the pyramid, the creation part of the pyramid. The challenge is when you do that, then if you're missing anything in the foundation, things that may seem in your mind like profound insights are either wrong or they aren't connected to any foundational concern. And that's okay, but then you actually have to rebuild the entire pyramid, and you have to rebuild the entire foundation. For example, you can rewrite all of mathematics if you really wanted to. People say, oh, math is set in stone. It's actually not. It's based on axioms. And from those axioms, you derive the system of mathematics. There's no reason you couldn't choose different axioms of mathematics. In fact, people do this. There's a field of math called reverse mathematics. And there's actually a different formulation of the foundations of mathematics called omega set theory. Wooden does this over at Berkeley. Okay, so you can completely reconstruct that. But then you have to do the same things the people who built math did. You have to prove your axioms are independent of each other. It took 2,000 years to show that for Euclid's parallel postulate. You have to show that your axioms of mathematics are non-contradictory. They're consistent with each other. Then you have to show if the system is complete or incomplete. Hilbert did that for his geometry. Gödel, going back to Gödel, there was a question about that earlier. Gödel showed that mathematics is forever incomplete in its current formulation. Then you also have to have decidability. If I give you a statement in your formal system you've constructed, can you decide on the truth value of that statement? It's kind of important when you talk about physics and math together, because you'd like to know if I give you a real life application, you can derive an answer from that. Pretty important, right? So if you're going to rebuild all the foundations, it's really important that you rebuild them in a way where you replicate the use, utility, and capabilities of what came before. And then you make an argument why your new formulation is superior to another formulation. This is what happened in mathematics with topology and analysis. So analysis is a particular way of looking at continuity and a particular way of looking at change. Topology does this as well, but it does it in a very different lens, deformation and variance and so forth. Okay, so you have different tools. They connect to each other. There's ways to build bridges between these two worlds, like the entire Sanger index theorem and these other things. They give you ways to translate one worldview with another worldview. And why we have these different lenses is it turns out that there are problems in topology where the proof is just a few sentences, whereas in an analysis, it's pages and pages and pages of rigorous calculations. And vice versa. There are things in analysis which are very easy to state and solve that in topology are exceedingly difficult to solve. Okay? So if Terence wants to go and build a new formulation of reality and say that this is useful in physics and in mathematics and other things, first he has to build a bridge to translate that formulation to the incumbent or show why the incumbent is wrong. And he could certainly say, well, there are paradoxes and problems in the incumbent theory that we have. The Banach-Tarski paradox is a great example. There's dozens of these types of things. And you could say, well, my new formulation doesn't have these defects inside of it. So suddenly you now have a superior notion because you're closer to a system without paradoxes. Or perhaps you can have a complete system where everything is deterministic and it all builds up. But there's no discussion of that because to even understand the words coming out of my mouth requires a reverence and respect for the foundations. And you have to understand how they work. And what people do when they have Dunning-Kruger is they play victim. They say the establishment holds me back. They don't accept my unorthodox thoughts. Einstein was a patent clerk and he changed all the physics. What they neglect to say is he had a PhD from ETH Zurich, the Harvard of Switzerland, in physics and understood the foundations. They always neglect that part. Tectonic plate theory. Well, that's true, but the people who were pioneers there were also scientists and had a deep understanding of geology and geophysics. And yes, they had unorthodox ideas that were not in the mainstream, but they had requisite training. So, Norman Wildberger is a great example of somebody who is challenging the orthodoxy of mathematics. He really hates the notion of infinity. He's a very discreet guy, but also he went to Yale and has a PhD in the topic, and he's spent an enormous amount of time thinking about these things and can make cogent arguments about his beliefs, which you may agree with or not agree with or think you lose use and utility from that. That's okay. And that's what the process should do. We should debate and discuss these types of things. And then there's also the broader concept. When you move into the physics world, you abandon what pure mathematicians did. And the physics world basically means that mathematicians don't have to be connected to reality. We don't really care if math actually is useful for anything. That's what pure mathematics is about. In physics, it has to be useful and actually has to be connected to reality. And what happens is if reality disagrees with your model is wrong. And so you have to change your model. So Terence is giving himself a double dose of pain because he's saying, I'm changing both math and I'm also changing physics. I'm creating this unified thing for these two things. Okay. So you would then have to overcome the entrenched biases, interests, and thoughts of both of those worlds, and you have a double duty. Now, there's plenty of physicists who have done this in the past. Ed Witten is one, probably one of the smartest physicists and mathematicians ever to live. Won a Fields Medal as a physicist. And he's a brilliant string theorist. And the reason he got so interested in mathematics is he had to build up all these new mathematical tools just to do the types of physics that he wanted to do. And when you listen to a lecture with him, you can just see that there's so much brilliance in his mind, it's hard for him to verbalize it and get it out. This is the level of rigor that exists there. Terence didn't do any of these things. And then he goes and claims that he did. And then anybody who disagrees with him is persecuting him and gets into a victim complex and mindset. And if people are laymen and they don't know the difference and they're not trained, it's very easy for them to get swept up in this type of stuff and say, oh, well, we have to embrace this or else it'll prevent diversity in thought or new ideas from coming to light. And unfortunately, that's a bad deal. And we run into this in medicine, by the way. There's a lot of pseudoscience in the naturopathic world. There's a lot of pseudoscience in the non-allopathic side of medicine. And that's bundled in with really interesting stuff and photobiomodulation and PEMF and really interesting stuff and herbs and other such things in Ayurvedic medicine. And they're all just kind of bundled together. And so you tend to throw the baby out with the bathwater and you get too much in your orthodoxy. So in my clinic, we try to do both and we force both sides together and they learn from each other. And if Terence was really being humble about this, then what he needs to do is sit down with a professional physicist and sit down with a professional mathematician for 6 months to a year, explain himself and keep explaining until they can write down the ideas in a way that meets the standards. And if they're new and interesting, he should be able to do that. Lizzi did that with his theory of everything while he was on a surfboard. So you can do it. I believe it's called E8, Anyway. Charles, why did you choose not to get a hair transplant? No, hey, just curious. I'm going to do the stem cells. I said I was never going to do a hair transplant. It's kind of like you take the hairs off the back of the neck or from the back of the head and you put them on the front. It's like the ultimate comb over, right? The next generation is where you use stem cells to actually repair, rejuvenate the areas that have lost hair and they just grows back. and they just inject it into the head. Hey, Charles, can I sign up for this hair growth test? That is our theory for how we're going to get Ada to the moon. You get a free hair replacement with your purchase of Ada. Advice on imposter syndrome. We'll have a PhD in CS come December, and sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Well, first things first, you never will know what you're doing, ever. And you see this from time to time. Instead of knowing what you're doing, just admit you don't, and then fall in love with solving really cool and interesting things. You have a PhD, means you've written a dissertation. There's probably one of two realities. Either that dissertation is something you're truly interested in, you're very excited about, and you wake up every day and that's the only thing you can think about. And congratulations, you're a true academic. Spend your life following that thread. Or that's a dissertation you and your advisor negotiated together where you thought it was a reasonable scope of work for 3 years or 4 years, and you could crack it, and it teaches you how to do research, but you're not terribly interested or passionate about it, and you just want to be done with it so you can move on to something else. Unfortunately, the majority of STEM PhDs are starting to look like the latter instead of the former. So how you get around the imposter syndrome is just find that thing that you're really interested in and understand that you now know the foundations. You've climbed to the top of the pyramid of Bloom's taxonomy. And now that you know those foundations, you have to take a moment and say, well, why did I become a computer scientist to begin with? What makes it fun and interesting and exciting? And what keeps you up at night and haunts you? There's got to be something about computer science, or else you wouldn't have gotten a PhD in it, that actually is interesting and unique. And that is the thread you hold on to. And that's the basis upon which you should start conducting your research. You've earned the right to do the research. You've earned the right to push forward. And by doing that research, you develop a passion. And by having a passion, you invest the time, the discipline, and the effort necessary to start getting deeply creative about it. And then the most important thing is good collaborators. You have to find people who share that passion and start talking to them. And you know what? There are things you do that are far better than what they can do. And there are things they do that are far better than what you can do. And together, you know what? You're both great. And the more collaborators you get, the more collaborative you become, the better the research becomes, the faster the research comes out. And then eventually you'll get where you need to go. I'd also advise build a second brain. There's a great community of people doing that with personal knowledge management systems. And read a book called How to Take Smart Notes, and learn about the Lumen system, Zettelkasten. This will immeasurably help as you're doing research and pushing your way through. What do you think about the Ancient Apocalypse show with Graham Hancock? I'm pretty excited about it, actually. You know, it's always fun when they talk about new things. I do think there was an Atlantis or something like it that was, because you look, there was some cataclysm that happened around 11,000 BC, and Plato referenced it, and the timing lines up pretty perfectly, and the ice cores line up, and there's a lot of evidence that's coming through. Everybody has a flood myth, Christian and otherwise. There's a Hindu flood myth and a Chinese flood myth, and there's a Sumerian and Babylonian flood myth. In fact, one of the flood survivors was supposedly a person who worked with Gilgamesh in the Epic of Gilgamesh. He gave him some secrets about where to find the immortality flower. There are flood myths in Africa, in South America. There's no contact between these people for 100,000 years, and they have a flood myth. So some cataclysm happened, got rid of the megafauna, a civilization collapsed, and the survivors seeded the modern civilizations we have now. So it's pretty cool that somebody's actually taking the time to think about it. And that's an example of a trained person making cogent and rational arguments, searching for the truth. Have you ever read Manly P. Hall? He was very obscure, but he's probably one of the most prolific philosophers ever to exist. I just got Manly P. Hall's book, The Secret Teachings of Another Age, where it was 1,000 pages long. I got a copy of it right at my house, so I definitely will read it. but it's going to take some time. Yeah, the anti-Catharian device, still unexplained. Probably a navigational equipment, but that's an example of just the magic of the Minoans. They were advanced, man, but the sea people got them. The sea people. Obsidian app is the best second brain. I could not agree more. Fast learning tools. I think you were researching them. Yeah, go ahead and go to YouTube and search Benjamin Keep, Keep. He's a learning expert, PhD and JD, and he teaches at Stanford. He has a wonderful YouTube channel and tons of videos that are free that talk about learning. Anyway, it's pretty good AMA, right, guys? I feel like I'm back. The ideas are flowing. We're back in the game. Positive, not fighting with people. Comments are positive. Good energy. What about Hydra? We talked about Hydra. Lots and lots of Hydra. Got Doom coming up. We got Midgard. We got Gummy Worm. Got the Emulator. 2025 is going to be the age of Hydra. You are back, brother. Well, thank you, Nico. It's good to be back. Feeling good. When Rogan? Well, you guys do realize that it's actually unbounded. Rogan after Gogan is up to the death of Rogan. So I guess there's a soft bound there wherever that happens. We'll get it done when the time is right and the stars are right. When is the Doom Showdown? Currently, we're planning to do it in Vegas at the same time as World of Concrete. So that's in January. Amazing what apologizing can do for your energy and the energy around you. Time to go on Bankless and preach the word of decentralization. All right, I'll go on Bankless. I'll wait a little bit until after Constitution's done because we're busy, but it'll be a good show. It'll be fun. And I won't even require them to be on the Black Hawk. That's how much I've grown. Will you be attending the Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas in 2025? I got to reach out to David. It'd be fun to go there and talk about Cardano as the Bitcoin DeFi layer. Get a little booth there. Charles, you promised an India trip for India for 2025. It'd be a lot of fun. We got to get it done. Got to go. Just want to say hi, Charles. I've been following you and your stream since 2017. Never really said hi before. Well, thank you, sir. I really appreciate that. Hi to you too. How's Nike? He's a good pig. Nike's doing well. And Trim, you know damn well that we're putting Nike inside the Hydra Doom game. So Trim, Bruce said, is the product manager in charge of the Hydra Doom, and he's doing a phenomenal job with it. And they're currently creating a custom map specifically for people to play for the last level. And we're going to put in Nike into the map, and we're also going to be putting in a lot of logos from various people who are building on Cardano. So it's almost like an esports arena, and you have the digital logos of different things. So if you are a Cardano project and you are interested in getting some advertising in the final death match, contact Trim, and we'll create those assets and put them in for you. It's going to be a big and fun event. Charles, why does BitBoy still hate the Cardano community? I'm not sure what's going on with BitBoy. I wish him well. I really do. I hope he gets to where he needs to go to in life. There's plenty of people who are going to be critics of Cardano, and one of the things I learned is, and I don't say just brush it off and let it go. You listen and you say, well, is there stuff they're being honest about, legitimate about? And there are some good points that BitBoy made throughout the years, and there's good points that some of the critics have made throughout the years about Cardano. And I like to believe that we've addressed a lot of those points in the budget process, and there'll be a big open public debate with the D-reps and the Constitutional Committee. And my belief is it will converge to something that addresses all these types of things. And if they're fair, I think they'll acknowledge it. If they're not fair, then they won't. But that's okay. It's on them, not us. What is your proudest accomplishment? Building Cardano, by far. I wouldn't be here with all you. A lot of love, a lot of inspiration, and it made my life complete. It's been the privilege of a lifetime being here with each and every one of you. Charles, I want to become a Cardano builder, but no tech experience. What would you suggest? I would spend some time and learn Aiken, Aiken. Go ahead and look at the educational materials there, take a course on it, and learn a little bit about AI-assisted development. Spend about 6-12 weeks with it and see what you can build. You'll never be a professional developer, but what you need to do is just learn enough that you can express your ideas you're coming up with in code. Then you can take it and partner with a professional developer, and they can actually take it to the next level. Charles, what's the progress on input endorsers? That is Ouroboros Laos, and it's currently in the prototype team, and they're working on it. Current velocity, late Q2 of next year, the prototype should be done. Love the new Relax, Charles. Well, we'll just keep dialing it up. We got the Darkness Retreat, got that crazy thing I'm doing in April, which we will film. Can't talk about it, though. And then that other thing, who knows what it is? The mystery box. You guys want to see into that mystery box, don't you? But no mystery box for you. Any updates on Atala Prism? Dids always seem like killer app to me. Yeah, so Atala Prism is now Hyperledger Adentis. The Atala team and technology got open cord and they moved into Hyperledger, and now it's an Apache 2 open source program. And we consume Adentis technology in Lace, Midnight, and RealFi. These are our 3 identity applications but there's an ecosystem that's formed around it. And while we're using it for selective disclosure and premium versions of Lace, as well as all of the things we need to do in lending and credit scoring and these types of things, anybody can use it, and it's a full DID compliant platform with all the bells and whistles. So highly recommend you try it out, and it's the basis upon which many identity-oriented applications can be constructed. Oh, no. You don't like Lace. You love Lace. I think he said Aiken. Gonna look it up. Yes, I did. Just Google Aiken Cardano programming. Boom, first result. Can you give us a hint about the mystery box? Other than the fact it's one of the coolest, most amazing, incredible mystery boxes ever. Nope, can't say anything. If I can pull it off, it will include all of you in a way that will blow your mind and get everybody excited. And it's going to be good times. Hard times, but good times. Charles, you should do an ayahuasca retreat. You know, I just had dinner in San Francisco when I was flying over to LA. I flew to San Francisco, had dinner with someone, then flew down same day to LA to visit SpaceX. But while I was in San Fran, the person I was talking to has done 90 ayahuasca retreats. 90. It's like, what? 90? It's like, man, learned a huge amount. Very zen, at peace person. Oh, no. You should do salvia. Okay, so for those of you listening who don't know about this drug, this is one that you know, it's like this is like the Boromir being like, one does not go to Mordor. One does not simply go to Mordor. Salvia is a drug that has a very short high, and it completely destroys your ego, and it's complete disassociative. So you just break out of your whole body. The problem is that some people experience time dilation with the drug. So you take a dose of salvia. The high lasts maybe 3 minutes to 5 minutes, but you experience something for hours, days, weeks, perhaps months, in some cases, years. There was a person who did a salvia trip who lived in Alaska, smoked it, went in this crazy world, woke up in the body of another person in Texas with a wife and kids, and lived that life for almost 10 years. And then woke up back in Alaska in his old body being like, what the fuck just happened? Okay, it's like Captain Picard, the Inner Light, where he lives the entire life because of the satellite. Now he's playing the flute and that shit, and he misses his wife and kids and all that stuff. That's what salvia can do to you. It is a crazy drug. So it is a very interesting thing to study, and we're certainly going to try to get a better understanding of the pharmacology and why it does what it does. But time dilation is one of the most interesting things, and it's one of the most powerful things. So I would not recommend it, because imagine how much that would fuck you up. You live another person's life for 10 years. You've gotten comfortable. You have wife, kids. You're going to graduations and shit. Then you wake up in your other body and you're like, what the hell just happened? No, man. But then you don't know what's real anymore. Because is the Alaska life real or is the Texas life real? I don't know. You totally know you would. Come on, Liv Taylor. Come on, dude. Don't lie to me, man. Charles, what's your favorite coffee/tea shop in Boulder? Dushanbe's. It's a Tajikistani tea house, and it's a wonderful place. Are you still using your Muse headband for meditation? Yes, did a 45-minute meditation this morning. Why does Wikipedia not know your exact date of birth? Put it in, they edited it out. It's a strange page. They say a lot of stuff. What's the bee on the microphone? Well, that comes from a community project where they're actually making beehives and putting them on Cardano. What happened to Jeremy Wood? He retired. I think he's doing network state stuff these days. Charles, what would you say today's MAV or Nakamoto coefficient is for Cardano? Well, if you guys are curious, I'll give you a link and you can look it up. We have an objective metric called the Edinburgh Decentralization Index, created by the University of Edinburgh. And here is the EDI. Actually, I have the dashboard right here. EDI dashboard. Ba-dum-bum-bum-bum. And let's take a look at this. Do-do-do. Let's see here. So I'll give you guys a link to the dashboard. Inclusion threshold for Gini coefficient. Yeah, so let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. And actually, I'll share the link and then I'll also share the screen. Edinburgh Decentralization Index is our friend. Ah, there we go. All right, and then we'll go ahead and share the screen. Wow! There we go. All right, so the Edinburgh Decentralization Index from University of Edinburgh. So you have dashboard, methodology, the tokenomics, the consensus dashboard. So here's consensus from explorers and on-chain data. It's the Nakamoto coefficient. You can see Cardano. So it's about 60. And then you have the Gini coefficient, and looks pretty good. Shannon entropy, HHI, that's the Herfindahl-Hirschman index, the Thiel index, the max power ratio, the Tau index. So all kinds of things. And then you have your tokenomics. So here's your dashboard. You got to take a look at the different tokenomics for decentralization, software decentralization, for Cardano and other ecosystems. Polkadot's looking pretty good. Congratulations, you Polkadot guys. Tezos looks good too. Bitcoin is here. Bitcoin's looking pretty good. And actually with the coalition and concept, Shannon entropy, Thiel index, max power ratio. So highly encourage you guys to take a look at it. All the data is open source. The models are open source, and university maintains it. And it goes through various different versions. So if you ever have any questions about decentralization, EDI is a living artifact, and it's basically the way to get it done. That's awesome. How do we get Ergo on that index? Really simple. Just talk to the Ergo developers, have them talk to the EDI, and they can work together and they can just be added in. Charles, can you do a Trump impression? Nobody does a better impression of Trump than me. Nobody. It's the finest, believe me. There are some, I assume, that do Trump impressions, but mine is the best. Always been the best. Always will be the best. Hi, Charles. When are you coming to Scotland? I'll buy you a proper dram as a thanks for your dedication to the cause. Ugh, DJ Go, what are you doing? Inviting me to Scotland? You lost your minds. We'll just be hanging out all day in the pubic triangle with a wee bit of the rough and tumble. That's what'll be happening, eh? Did you watch the UFC fight last night? I missed it. I was working and I forgot that Bone Jones was fighting, and I heard it was just a freaking amazing fight. You do look Scottish. Your Trump impression sounds like a South Park version. AR-15 or AK-47. So I own both, and I really like the AK-47 platform. The AK-103 is like the modern variant. Just got a lot of power in that gun. Just a lot of power, and damn easy to use. They never jam. Quite fun to put a red dot. We have a holographic scope on it. The AR-15 though that's the canonical platform, and there's an unlimited amount of mods. And if you have a lot of special forces guys around, they just go overboard with that. They have an eidetic knowledge and understanding of that platform. You know, the best part about 762 is when you buy them, it's always like Russian surplus or something like that. So you get these large ammo crates and they have the hammer and sickle on them. There's all Cyrillic and you just break them open. You have these giant drums and it's dirt cheap to mass buy it. You know, I just got a Barrett 50 cal, like 600 grain, 600 grain, 50 cal. It's got the magazine. You load it up. We call it the TBI machine. It's crazy. The whole barrel is on a spring system, so it goes into the gun back. You know, it just goes boom. You're like, okay, well, an explosion just happened in front of me. I think I have brain damage now. That is a beast of a weapon. Yeah, here's a mod for your mod. That is like AR-15 land. That's exactly right. There's a mod for your mod for your mod. Have you been to Vietnam, Charles? Yes, I've been several times to Ho Chi Minh. Wonderful city. Love going there. A lot of fun. I will come back. The Vietnamese Cardano community is one of the strongest. Also have a private landing strip for your plane to land. I don't know about that, man. Global 7500 is pretty heavy. That's one hell of a private strip. Wen Shelley. Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah. All right. This guy. This guy's an OG. He knows what to ask. Wen Shelley. That was the turning point. Now we got Gauguin. We got Voltaire. Basho's looking great. The roadmap has never been stronger. Cardano is just a Leviathan. It's all coming together, guys. It's all coming together. Together strong. Yeah. There we go. Can you give us a date for the mystery box? Oh my lord, the box is so awesome and amazing. It belies even the ability to describe a date because it's under NDA. But it's pretty amazing. Hardest thing I've ever done. Coolest thing I've ever done. If we can come to terms. If there's an if. But we all want to make it happen. Cardano is so strong. Fuck Solana. We can't say that anymore, guys. We got to get together. We got to come together. There's a lot of stuff Solana does that's just fine. There's a lot of stuff Cardano does just fine. And I know I've had my part in all of it. And I do apologize to the Solana community if I've been throughout the years unnecessarily harsh. But we as an ecosystem, we have to be better. And let's stop saying fuck ecosystem XYZ or this ecosystem is worse than us. It's not sum zero anymore. These are our partners. These are our customers. These are crypto people just like us. And you know what? We can all work together. And there's a lot of really amazing things that are going to happen in Solana. And I think I might even go to a Solana conference next year, especially with Midnight coming out. And I think it's going to benefit Cardano tremendously by doing so. And I think a lot of Solana people would love to come to a Cardano conference. So I'll throw the gauntlet down. If I go to a Solana conference, Solana people, why don't you come to Rare Evo and spend some time there? I'd love for the Solana Foundation sponsor booth, get to know the Cardano ecosystem. And I'm more than happy to have a midnight booth be at one of your Solana events. How about that? So you've heard it here first. Got to embrace and extend. Buy EverQuest and put it on chain, please. I did play EverQuest. I was a high elf. Yeah. Yeah. I like what you're thinking, man. SOE, Sony Online Entertainment. I'm gonna get back to you on that one. I'm gonna get back to you because that would be an interesting piece of IP to pick up. Yeah. It was a brutal bear market. Rather a scene it was. Glad to have this energy again, this good energy again. You're absolutely right, Brutal. It was terrible. But you know what? We got through it. We're on the other side. Things are going to be great. Are you still working on IOHK? Yeah, well, IOHK is a subsidiary of Input Output Group. Actually, we shut down a while ago. We just haven't updated the website, but next year we will. Input Output Group will be the website. Speak on your telco company. We're in negotiations with World Mobile, and we're trying to get all the equipment up to Gillette, Wyoming. I'm going to create a micro ISP up there using World Mobile, so I'll be part of that. And that'll be a heck of a lot of fun. EverQuest on Hydra. HydraQuest. Yeah. What do you guys think about that? HydraQuest? Should we do it? It's kind of fun. Ramon would do that. He'd be all for that. The lupine market. You're an amazing person. Love from Iran. Iran is a country I've never been to, but I've always wanted to go to. The Iranians are actually the first to come up with refrigeration technology. They had this hut that they would construct called a yakchal, and they could use it to make ice. Imagine that, not having, like 3,000 years ago, coming up with a clay hut that actually can make ice and store ice. They also have these amazing salt mountains and just beautiful landscape. And the Persian culture is so incredible. Many of you know I actually collect cuneiform tablets. So this right here is actually one of the world's oldest customer complaints. So there we go. Nothing like Akkadian for the win. But basically, Nimrod was complaining about the quality of his copper in 1800 BC. So nothing fucking changes in life ever. And then this one's pretty cool. This is a incantation to ward off the evil eye, which was something that was quite common in Sumerian culture and Babylonian culture. Let me get a little closer if you guys can see that. Sorry, I can't focus in. And then this is a proclamation for a wedding. This is one of my favorite tablets. Okay, there we go. Don't want to drop it. Look at that. Just a whole bunch of shit right there. And, if you spend enough time, you can even start reading these. Like, for example, these right here are numbers. They have a base 60 system in Babylon and Sumeria. So we use a base 10 system to count up, and they counted up to 60. And you say, but Charles, why would you do that? Well, it turns out that base 60 is really, really good for trigonometry, and it's good for astronomy calculations. You also can count to 60 with your fingers. You can? Okay, well, normally we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here's what you do. You go 1, 2, 3, because you have those three, right? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 24. You can go all the way up to 60. How about that? I bet you didn't know you could count base 60 with your fingers. Well, that's how the Babylonians did it. Your mind's now blown, huh? Yeah. Yeah, what's up? And base 69 is Elon Musk's official number system. Any tips on improving long-term memory? Yeah, okay. So you have the exposure, then you encode whatever you've been exposed to, then you consolidate, usually during sleep, and then you have recall. These are kind of your steps. So first off, as the information is coming through, how is it getting to you and in what environment is it getting it to? Then what techniques and tools are you using to encode those memories? Then what are you doing to improve memory consolidation? And then what have you encoded with the memory to improve recall when you try to retrieve? So you have space repetition, you have interleaving, you have dozens of different encoding techniques you can use. And there's plenty of low-level things on Bloom's taxonomy, for example, the mnemonics and these types of things. And then there's higher level techniques that you can use to improve that. So again, I would encourage you to look at Benjamin Keep's work. Making It Stick is also a really good book to reference. And these things can really teach you a lot about how to improve long-term memory. Will the Constitutional Convention be streamed? Yes. It is horrendously expensive to do it, but we're doing it because you guys will watch and then you get to debate it. It's a two-step process. Got to clear the convention, then got to clear the on-chain ratification. So everybody's included. Is it being streamed on a nude beach? Unfortunately, we did move it from Brazil to Argentina. I'm just saying, All right. It is a dry year, sir. Every time you remember something, you actually change the memory. It's another thing that blows people's minds. Thoughts on Doge beating Cardano's ass? Well, here's the thing. Boss, the Grail Bridge, is for Bitcoin script and that proof of work dynamic. It should work on Litecoin, which means it should work on Doge. That means Cardano could be the DeFi layer of Doge, the Doge layer. Think about that. That'd be an interesting conversation to have with people interested in Doge. Is IOG still interested in developing Ergo? Of course we are. We love Ergo. It's a great ecosystem, and we learn a lot from it. I think Alex Sherpinoy is one of the brightest guys in the entire crypto industry. Come on the Steve-O podcast. I'd love to. Give me an invite. I'll come on. It'd be fun. We can shoot the shit for an hour or two. I still got to do Tim Pool, and There's like a dozen others that are on the backlog. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it and get it done one way or the other. Oh, schnizzle. Shizzle snizzle. Thank you, James. How was your chat with Lehman? It hasn't happened yet. We've been going back and forth and we're getting it scheduled. It's time, Charles. Spill the beans. Do you really want to know? Do you really want to know what's in the mystery box? You really want me to tell you guys? Violate the NDA? Spill all the beans? Okay, I'll tell you. This is what we're doing.